Welcome back to episode number 2 of me talking about every single draft selection in the NBA draft before the next NBA season does start. And I'm going to talk about Darryn Peterson, of course, who was selected second overall by the Utah Jazz, and what is a team that I think now might be prepared to try and make a little bit of a playoff push. Now, I will admit I'm not as bullish on the Utah Jazz making a push as I am on the Wizards, and maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. I'm going to stand on that one, though, because I look at that Wizards team and I get pretty excited. Now, I still look at the Jazz team and I still get relatively excited because I will admit I'm a pretty big fan of Lauri Markkanen. Keyonte George, he was being really mean to Scoot Henderson in that game one time when he was chirping at him, but he is such a good player, man, and he really has developed into a great point guard now, and I do think that him alongside Darryn Peterson are going to be a great guard duo. But of course, this isn't necessarily just a video about the Jazz. I will discuss them a little bit later on. But I wanted to talk about Darryn Peterson. Now, Darryn Peterson, of course, was coming into the draft with a few unknowns, and those unknowns really were injury-related. He didn't play a great deal of minutes. He was subbing himself out of games, and in my opinion, that is why I thought that he just didn't have a great chance to go number 1 overall, was because of those injury concerns. You're using the number 1 pick. Do you want someone that has been, quite inconsistent, wasn't playing the second half of games, was pulling himself out of games, was dealing with, very unfortunate issues regarding maybe too much creatine usage? So he just had a lot of unknowns, but I think that he actually answered a lot of those concerns in the Summer League because he was playing full games in the Summer League, he was playing hard on the Summer League, and he was also doing a lot more playmaking in the Summer League than what he was in his college career as well. Now, of course, some of his college stats, in my opinion, are a little bit skewed given the fact that his minutes were not super high. However, he didn't really assist much in the college game. He wasn't much of a playmaker. He was more of just a scorer. But then when he got into the Summer League, instantly he started assisting more. I think he had a 12 assist game in the Summer League before the Summer League, which was very impressive, and he really did show his potential assisting and playmaking upside as someone who's going to be playing alongside Keyonte George, who already is a very good scorer as a point guard, and then on top of that is also a very good playmaker on top of being a point guard as well. And those two play pretty good defense as well, so I think those two guards could be pretty good because, of course, Darryn Peterson is 6'6". He is quite physical. He's only 19 years old. He was only 19 years old when he was drafted, so this is a duo of guards that the Jazz are going to have now for a while. And I think that's important because that's why I liked the Timberwolves trading for LaMelo Ball so much, was because both LaMelo and Ant are about the same age. They're both around 24 years old. That's a duo that's going to last for a long time. This is another duo that, as long as they can keep them on the team, is going to last for a pretty long time. Now, let's look at this Jazz roster and see what we're going to be dealing with, because we're going to be dealing with Keyonte George, Darryn Peterson, Lauri Markkanen, who I will admit does handle the ball very well, Jaren Jackson Jr., who can be a fantastic defensive player, just slammed my desk, and then the starting center is, unfortunately going to be Jusuf Nurkic instead of what could have been, of course, Walker Kessler, who went to the Lakers. Now, of course, you're going to have backup center now, I believe, in Jackson Hayes, who did play for the Lakers. It seems like maybe Luka likes him because, he ended up playing for, I believe, is it Slovenia? He ended up getting like a second nationality so he can play for their national team. I don't know why Luka wanted that, but anyways, you got Kyle Filipowski, who I believe was selected 31st. He was a big-time draft dropper because he had a lot of things come out regarding his family, but of course he ended up in Utah. Cody Williams is a prospect that I don't think is going to contribute that much to them winning games this year. He just hasn't really shown to be the prospect that people expected him to be. Now, I'm not going to put words in anyone's mouth, but I do believe people did expect Cody Williams to sort of make developments like his brother Jalen Williams, put on a lot of size like Jalen Williams did, and become more of a physical threat. But Cody Williams is just not a physical player. He really is, dare I say, just to stick him in the corner, 3-point shooter. Ace Bailey still does have superstar potential, was drafted 5th overall last year. Now, maybe they're going to try and get rid of Lauri Markkanen at one point and put Ace Bailey at the starting small forward position, and we could see maybe that just young duo kind of keep going up, or the young trio keep going up together. But I think that Ace Bailey, despite what a lot of the media does say about him, he does seem pretty content with being in a backup role. And then, of course, Isaiah Collier. I'm not very high on Isaiah Collier. I'm going to be honest with you. He just hasn't really come across as a point guard that can play make as well as I think you would need him to, because a lot of the times the backup point guards can be very effective players that can dominate in against other teams' second, third stringers. Isaiah Collier, I don't know if he can lead a team, which is why I think that Darryn Peterson might end up playing the point in those moments when Keontae George is resting, and maybe you're going to have some pretty weird rotations sort of working around. But I'm quite interested in letting you guys let me know what you think, and I'm going to let you guys know something real quick, of course, because it is my sponsor, guys, w.gg. Use that code ARTEM10, you get 10% off. Let's go into the standings now and talk about how realistic could it possibly be that the Utah Jazz are going to make it into the playoffs, because you've got to look at last year's standings and how the Western Conference did play out. You know, the Utah Jazz, I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm trying to record this video in 1440p, so I kind of just hope that you can. But last year, we did have the Utah Jazz dead last. Worse than the Kings. Well, the same as the Kings, but worse than the Kings on the standings nonetheless. And then you can go and you can see that the Golden State Warriors had that last play-in playoff spot, because, of course, they ended up having to try and get in with 37 wins. So, does adding Jaren Jackson Jr. and Darryn Peterson, but losing Walker Kessler, add 15 wins to this team? And that's where I get a little bit scared, because I look at this league and I think that, yeah, the Clippers are going to be worse. So, you don't have to worry about the Clippers that much. I think the Warriors are going to be worse. You know, you don't have Jimmy. Steph is only getting older. I think the Clippers and the Warriors are both going to get worse. I think the Blazers, you know, as much as I love the Blazers, are probably going to be about where they are. Same with the Suns. Timberwolves are going to get better. Rockets are probably going to get worse because, I mean, to be fair, they've got Fred Can-Eat coming back, but, you know, KD, I think, has just ruined that locker room. Maybe that's a hot take, I don't know. So I feel like ultimately we can kind of drop the Clippers, because the Clippers are going to be rebuilding, and maybe that's a hot take. I think they're going to be a really bad team next season. So we're going to have to go with the Jazz. I would say probably scoring another 14, 15 wins to put themselves in this sort of conversation here to make it into that play-in tournament. And can they do that? I don't know, man, because the Mavericks are better too. The Grizzlies are worse. The Kings are the same. The Pelicans are the same. You know, the Pelicans, I think, are intentionally not making any moves to try and get a top pick next year, given the way that the new lottery works. But I kind of look at this slate and I think, I don't know. I just don't know. You know, I'm just gonna say maybe not. I'm gonna say maybe not. I think they're just gonna miss out on the playoffs this year. The Western Conference at the top is super competitive, but to be fair, once you get down here, it does get less competitive. But it's gonna be very difficult, I think, to make the playoffs on both conferences, and the East as well. The Eastern Conference is still going to continue to be pretty competitive. But I'm just going to go out and say I don't think the Jazz do make the playoffs this year, but you don't want to put that much pressure on a rookie anyway, 19-year-old rookie, to bring them into the playoffs like the Wizards kind of are with AJ DeBancer as well. I talked about that in my last video, but the difference is, in my opinion, Trae Young and Anthony Davis are going to hold so much offense on that team. They're going to do so much that I think there's not going to be that much pressure necessarily on AJ DeBancer to be that big creator, to be that big scorer. Whereas Darryn Peterson, I think that them making the playoffs maybe does rely on Darryn Peterson's ability. You know, I know Jaren Jackson Jr. is a great player, can be a great defensive player as well, but that's how I'm thinking. You know, it's going to very be reliant on Keontae George making another leap, Lauri Markkanen continuing to be very good, and then on top of that, I think we're going to need to see Darryn Peterson have a very good, maybe Rookie of the Year kind of candidate, which I think could go to Cam Boozer, who I'm going to talk about tomorrow. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And I'll see you guys in the next one.